I could feel that I was not going to win today. This was not going to, this wasn't going to go well. And by the time I got to our back porch, and I had Gannon and the nurse on the phone, and they said, we did everything we could, but there was no heartbeat, none. And your son is gone.
Welcome to the Dr. Suzette Glasner podcast. Today I am joined by Patti Wheeler, whose son Wyatt died in 2022 after using Kratom. Patti is the executive producer of the documentary Kratom: Side Effects May Include. She also founded A Beautiful Life Stolen to save lives, prevent more families from enduring the same pain that she did, and raise awareness of Kratom and the risks associated with its use. Patti is also the author of the award-winning book series Travels with Gannon and Wyatt, which takes readers on educational adventures around the globe. Patti, thank you so much for spending this time with me today.
I really, really appreciate you having me here. This has been a journey that I never expected to go on with Gannon and Wyatt, but here I am nonetheless, and I'm very grateful for you to have me today.
Well, I really appreciate you being here. I think that the audience is going to learn a lot from you and from your story, and I appreciate the way that you have transformed your grief and your experience into this sort of meaning and purpose and this sort of mission to educate people about what happened to you and your family and how to prevent that from happening to others. It's not an easy thing. And as we were just talking about, it is beyond a full-time job.
Yes, it is. And, I never imagined myself to be an advocate. That wasn't something in the wheelhouse or in the plan at all. So when I speak about things, I can only speak to it from a personal experience. And a lot of my science or my statistics or things that I've accumulated since doing the film have come from scientists and experts in the field. And I feel like we managed to get the best people to inform and share their information with us. And so I impart that wisdom, but I am by no means an expert in any one thing specific. I'm just someone who wants to share my story and what I know and hopefully save lives. That is the complete intention of waking up every day now.
I bet you have saved lives already. That would be my bet.
I know firsthand that I have intervened in a lot of people using Kratom and making a difference in their life, and I have been told as much. So, yes, I am grateful for that.
And that probably makes it a little bit easier to weather some of the backlash from people who don't agree with your position. And as we know now, in today's world with social media, people have the sort of freedom to be very, very harsh in ways that can be really tough to take.
They can be extremely cruel, but I am forgiving of that. Believe me when I tell you, I have enormous empathy for people that are in pain and suffering and going through addiction. Oh my gosh, as hard as it is to hear this kind of criticism and to be a target of questioning, especially with my son's toxicology report and other people that the American Kratom Association loves to hold little symposiums or forums, and they always select 10, 15 people, victims. And it's tough to listen to their scrutiny, and they have no clue as to what they're doing. They're just throwing darts at a situation that has no merit because the simple truth is that, and I'm going to say this again during our hour, but if you removed Kratom from all of the combined toxicity reports that they put out, the individuals would still be here with us if you just took Kratom out. So that is my complete feeling, my honest feeling, and they're not going to change my mind by running a smear campaign on my son and the other families that I want to and hope to represent.
It takes incredible resilience to maintain that position amidst all of that scrutiny and negativity.
Yeah. Somebody has to be the voice of the ones who can no longer speak, right? Why not us? Why not me? Why not I? Why wouldn't I want to? Why wouldn't I want to do this for Wyatt?
Let me ask you one question. What do you wish someone had told you years ago before you lost Wyatt?
Oh, years ago, before I lost him, but regarding Kratom?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a big question now. I wish that I knew a tenth of what I know now then, because that would have been first on my radar. I'd like to get into that story as we progress a little bit through the timeline, because there was a time when he used Kratom in 2014 and 2015. He had gotten into a little trouble with alcohol. So I'd like to come back to that at the appropriate time. But even if had I known then what I know now, it would have been a hard no. No, run. Don't do it. We'll find something else, anything else, but no. So
what you wish you would have known was about the risk of mortality tied to Kratom.
I wish I had known at that point about the addictiveness of Kratom.
Mm-hmm.
I would not have even focused on the mortality of Kratom, because that was probably less talked about in 2014. Maybe there wasn't as many cases at that point. So, but there were cases going on for sure, deaths. But the addictiveness was something that, my God, that's something that it's not a question of if you will become addicted. With Kratom, it is when you will become addicted. Everyone will become addicted to Kratom if they take it.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been doing some more recent literature review around what proportion of people who use Kratom will become addicted, and there's not much data around that. So it's interesting that that's sort of what you've come to from your own kind of research and experience. There was a recent study that showed, and this is actually a really high rate in my mind, although not as high as you're thinking right now, but that surveyed like 2,000 people who were, or something over 2,000 people who were taking Kratom currently, and evaluated how many of them have what is known as a Kratom use disorder. So we in 2014, we weren't talking about Kratom use disorders.
No.
In that sample, and that's just one study, and we definitely need more to better understand this, but a quarter of the people who were using Kratom had met criteria for a Kratom use disorder.
Right. Well, keep in mind, as we talk about this too, that Wyatt passed away October 25th of 22. And our film wrapped the end of 25. So in that 2-year period, and by 24, that is the time when we were really filming and interviewing our experts. And data and science is changing weekly with Kratom.
Agreed.
They're doing a lot of webinars. There's a lot of scientists getting together, holding, 10-day events, and they're all talking about it. Certain colleges now, I know University of Michigan, certainly University of Florida, Dr. McCurdy. They all have their data and their science, and they're continuing to run these studies. But that's a whole nother subject too.
Yeah, we're going to get to that too. So let me actually go back to who you were before all of this, and before Kratom became part of your life. I know it's consumed your life now in so many ways. Before the documentary, before the legislative work, sort of who was Patti Wheeler? And I know you spent 15 years traveling
As a flight
attendant,
Yeah.
right? For Eastern Airlines?
Yes, I was a flight attendant for Eastern Airlines.
What did that chapter of your life give you?
Oh, my gosh. Okay, so I grew up in a very small town, a small community called Pickettville in Jacksonville, Florida. My father was a truck driver. My mom was a 10th grade educated mom. We didn't have a lot growing up, but I never realized that. No one could tell me that we didn't have everything we needed because it felt like we did. My family were very close. I had 3 siblings, and then years later I was born. So I was the oopsie.
Baby. The oopsie baby.
I was maybe the oopsie. But I always wanted to be a flight attendant. I don't know. Even when I was 12 years old, I had someone come to the house. My mom didn't even realize that I'd filled out some sort of application and mailed it off. And this man showed up one day, and he was like, oh, when he saw how old I was through the screen door, he was like, my mother, but he said, let me come in and talk to Patsy. And he did. And oh my gosh, I was hooked. Everything he talked about, the Barbizon School of Modeling, the flight attendants, and how to poise yourself and walk. And this was like an Elijah Doolittle story. I couldn't wait to get out and fly and see what the rest of the world looked like. And as time went on, and I did do that, during my last year as a flight attendant, I met my husband, Tom, and we got married and spent some time in Michigan, and ended up moving to Florida right after I became the mom of Gannon and Wyatt, 2 beautiful boys. Twins. And they were born early, really early. So there was a lot of concern and about their welfare. And, I don't really think I was a helicopter mom, but I definitely spent a lot of time trying to teach Gannon and Wyatt about the dangers of life. And I worried about them a lot. But, when you have one baby, you're very focused. When you have 2, you're hyper-focused.
Of course, yeah.
So we moved out to Aspen, Colorado. I had a love of the mountains and just always wanted to share that experience with them growing up. And it was a great experience to live in Aspen. It's one of the most beautiful places on earth, I like to think. And
Aspen's beautiful.
Yeah, it was everything. So they were there until they decided to go to college and at TCU. Wyatt picked TCU first. Gannon picked University of Colorado. He went to Boulder, and Wyatt went to Fort Worth. And 2 years later, Gannon joined him in Fort Worth. He missed his brother enormously. And it was an adjustment at first. They were like, or I think Wyatt was like, oh no, my brother's coming to my school.
Right. Kind of uncool, but it became cool later, it sounds like.
It became so cool that 6 months before Wyatt died, he pulled me aside and he said, Mom, I'm so grateful and happy that Gannon is here. I love him so much, and I I'm so happy that he joined me here at TCU, and it was the best decision ever. So I was happy to hear that, because we don't want a crowd, we want to give everybody space. And,
Right.
but he was happy. He was very happy. It was an adjustment, but it worked out. Everything worked out great from that perspective until it didn't.
You had shared that Wyatt had struggled with alcohol at one point, and gotten a DUI when we spoke
Yep.
about him. What did that period look like for your family?
So that was very, very earth shattering for us because the boys grew up in an environment where everyone supported each other and they just didn't get into trouble. Um, we didn't have a police force in Aspen that was sort of geared up to arrest tourists. They were there to support people, and we knew a lot of the local police and everything. So we just didn't have issues growing up. And when Wyatt got to TCU, and this is one of the reasons, by the way, that I'm very passionate about, I'll talk later about a fourth group of people who use Kratom. And this is probably, this is one of the fourth category that I worry about so much. So he's 18 years old. He's away from his brother. He's in a fraternity. He's in an environment that he's never been into, never been away from the nest. And there's fraternity parties, and there are big parties on every college campus. And you have a situation on many of these campuses that marijuana is not legal. You certainly cannot drink until you're 21. And all of these children are looking for an outlet. They look for an alternative, something that they can go to these parties and feel a little comfortable, maybe fit in, whatever. And they find something. They found spice when spice was on the market. They find, different types of THCs today that are on the market. And what isn't on the market, they can buy it online.
Yep.
And have it delivered to their
Easy
door.
access. Yeah.
So it's an epic problem. For Wyatt, he moved a truck from the stadium over to his dorm. And in doing that, he had to cross a street that was in between. And the minute the tires hit that street, he was pulled over because one of the girls in the back seat didn't have her seatbelt on.
Yep.
A good reason to pull somebody over. And he was arrested, rightfully so. He had been drinking, and he just was in shock. Now he had to have an attorney. Now he was in jail. He had to call mom and dad.
Wow.
This was an earth-shattering moment for him. And as soon as he got out, I think, and processed that a little bit, he wanted to go back to having fun with his friends. And so he found Kratom powder. And a few of his friends at college were using Kratom powder at that time in 2014. He had a green shake away bottle. And I believe that his Kratom experience, from all what I've heard from his friends, lasted maybe 3 or 4 months. And then he found out that he couldn't be tested for alcohol on his probation. And so he just threw that away and went back to alcohol. And, we didn't have Kratom surface anymore. It was done all through college. It was no more discussion about Kratom. So that would be from, 2016 all the way to 2022.
Oh, that's a long time.
Yeah.
It was just a brief stint with it.
Yeah.
As a way to not
Right.
get in trouble with drinking, basically.
Exactly.
I see. Can you take me through what happened on October 25th,
Yeah.
2022? and take your time.
I would like to take you through what happened prior to that. Wyatt had come out to Aspen on October the 6th. Well, first of all, let me just say, he and his brother were doing an internship in Michigan with their dad. And while he was out there, my husband had said a couple times, I don't know what's up with Wyatt. He goes to the store in the middle of the night, and, I don't like his coloring so much. He's calling about, he complains a little bit more than he normally does, or his personality is a little off. And, but he's doing okay. They have to get up early in the morning, be at work before daylight. So, and then maybe he has good reason to be tired when he comes home at night.
Where was he working?
He was working in our company, in automotive in Michigan. So, he did that, and I really didn't visit Michigan during the 6 weeks that he was there. So I don't know exactly what he was using at the time. What I did find out was October 6th, he wanted to go to a concert in Aspen, and I was out in Aspen renting a place. Our house had sold at the time, and Wyatt was one of the real estate agents on our home. So he had money. He hadn't spent it, of course. He had a commission check, and he wanted to fly out to Aspen to be with his friends and go to this concert. So he came out, and he kept asking me when he was there, Mom, do you think I look fat? Do you think I look a little overweight? And I admit now that he looked bloated. But no, to a mom, you're perfect. There's nothing wrong with you. You're perfect. So he just asked a few times too many. And I walked into his bathroom, and I saw Urban Ice and Ma Dang, and these capsules were sitting on the counter. So immediately I picked them up and went online and saw this man. He's holding his head and his hands, and he's talking about how addicted he is to this stuff. And this is in 2022. He's so addicted, and it's ruining his life. And oh my gosh, this testimony was scary. So I came out and I said, Wyatt, what is this? What are you doing? What is this stuff? Kratom and Urban Ice and Ma Dang, and it all has Kratom in it. What is it? His answer was very satisfying in a way. I mean, he just says, Mom, it's nothing for you to worry about. This is a complete herbal supplement. We can look on the back. We looked at the packaging, and there was no warning. There was no dosing. It's just an herbal supplement. I'm just doing it because I want to stop alcohol. I don't want to drink anymore. I want to lose weight. I just really want to be healthy. And I had a feeling that he wanted this because he had an agenda. And I think that agenda involved the girl that he was dating. And he probably had a question for her, or was leading up to that. And he was focused very much on not drinking and making a change in his life. And he knew he was going to be graduating, and he wanted to go to Michigan and start his life. I mean, he had everything in the world to live for. He was on top of the world, had a commission check and a job that he was going to, and the family business. He was going to be working with his brother.
Going back to what you said about the way that your husband noticed that he was acting, do you think he was going into withdrawals and going to the store in the middle of the night to get more Kratom?
I don't know. That's a very good question. I don't know the answer to that.
That was the first thing that popped into my mind.
Yeah, no, it's a very good question, because clearly what happened after that maybe indicates that you're absolutely right. I mean, listen, I lived my life heavily because of where I grew up and how I grew up. I believe in common sense. Your question begs common sense. It really does. I asked Wyatt when I saw what I did that day. I said, please, I don't know what this is, but I'm asking you, I'm begging you, just don't take this right now. If you want to go to the dispensary, if you want to go get weed, if you want to buy whatever it is you want, do that. Do that, but don't do this right now. Let's find out a little bit more about it, because I really don't think what we were reading sounds good. And he said, I won't, Mom. I won't take this anymore. I won't do this. And he didn't. He went home, and he went to the smoke shop, to Friday's smoke shop. And really looking at his credit card receipts, even from when he was buying the powder, it all seems to go back to about a 6-week journey from where he was in Michigan, the credit card receipts, talking about where he was going at the stores, returning to Fort Worth, really started doing a lot of purchasing at Friday's Smoke Shop. But instead, he started buying the little cute 5-hour energy drink. It looked like a 5-hour energy drink. It was small bottle, concentrated opiums S. Think of how that sounds. He was buying those bottles instead and drinking those. And we found 18 of those bottles. 6 of them, 6 or 7, were consumed open. Some, maybe more, maybe like 10 were open, actually. I don't know why I didn't throw them away.
What's your knowledge of what's contained in those concentrated drinks?
It's the concentrate, and I don't know how many milligrams, but because then in October 22, it is still the wild, wild west. It's snake oil being sold at these stations and vape stores. No one knew.
So this is 7-OH that you're talking about?
It is not, because that's a tricky question. That's a very tricky question. That's what we're talking about when we discuss truth, transparency, honest information. Honest information. Because what I have now discovered, and what I didn't know even in 22 or 24, what I didn't know in 24 when the movie wrapped, I now know that all kratom, when it's consumed, your body will naturally convert it into 7-OH. It will become 7-OH. So the very thing that we are pushing legislation for, and we're begging the FDA and everyone else to weigh in on, is 7-OH. So yeah, your question is, was it 7-OH? Well, it was 7-OH, of course, but at the time, it's the concentrate with no labeling, no dosing. Friday's smoke shop guy trying to tell somebody how to take it, how you should use this,
Well, typically, from what I've gleaned, substances that are labeled as kratom extracts or kratom enhanced are, in fact, 7-OH, but they're just not labeled as such. That's what I'm trying to discern from the story of what he was taking.
And this could be the case, right? This could be we could be selling pure 7-OH in the concentrate.
Right.
But unfortunately, when I go to a state by state forum now and we're discussing restrictions, they're not considering the concentrate as the 7-OH. They're talking more specifically about the tablets that are labeled 7-hydroxy 7-OH, and they're labeled 80 milligram. And now in Texas, they're labeled with 120 milligram. And
that's really problematic, though, because
isn't it?
As an unregulated substance, like you said, it's sort of the Wild West, so you don't know what you're getting. So just because something doesn't say 7-OH and here are the risks and here are the dangers doesn't mean that that's not what you're getting. And that's where people fall into really dangerous situations, which it sounds consistent with what happened.
It gets far more complicated too. It gets so complicated that the average person who is out here watching your show, and they're not involved every day. And the majority of people are not involved until it becomes personal. Once it is personal, then, oh my God, it's on the radar and everyone that they know knows about it. But trying to explain the science and even the scientists doing the data, what we don't know is this. When it comes from the tree in Indonesia, and it goes into the big drums, and then it sits on the container ships, and the heat is heating it up. Heat is part of the active ingredient in the kratom leaf. That is what is starting to already metabolize it and change it. So once it arrives at the mom and pop processing center or the big guys processing centers, they already can't say the amount of natural occurring 7-OH that's in it before they even start their process of adding all of their stuff. So you can take every product off the shelf right now, do research on it, and you're going to find different ingredients in every one of these products. They are not consistent. We have no clue as to what is on there. So I have very, very strong opinions now about what needs to happen. But I didn't come to this place. I didn't come here to this decision or this process easily. This has been a daily, every day I wake up, every day I go to sleep, education.
And it's very complex, too. I mean, it's a good thing that you have scientists and experts who you can consult to better understand it, because it is very confusing. And part of that is because of the absence of labeling and understanding of what's contained from one product to another. So we'll talk about regulatory in a moment. Just going back to what ended up happening to Wyatt that day.
So Wyatt, as I said, he started taking the OPMS, and he and Gannon came from school. They had different classes, so they had just showed up at home a little bit different. It was, must have been about 7 p.m. And Gannon stopped in Wyatt's room and said, "Hey, bro, you want to watch some video games?" And Wyatt was, "Yeah, sure, let's do it. Let's play," Not delusional himself, 100% coherent. He said, "Yeah, let's play some." So Gannon said he walked downstairs. I was on my way home from a restaurant in Jacksonville. I was driving, and Gannon said he just sat down in his chair. He would put his headset, just ready to put his headset on, and he heard a calamity upstairs, a violent, clearly there was something wrong above him. And he ran up the stairs. He heard Wyatt screaming. And he got to his brother. His brother was standing in the water closet, bleeding from his mouth profusely. He was in a full-blown seizure. He couldn't speak. He had a terrified look on his face.
Yeah.
And Gannon said he just reached out to help him, and Wyatt collapsed in his arms, and he grabbed the phone to call 911, and he was on the phone with 911, and his brother was turning blue. And he did everything he could. He did everything that the EMS said to do, and they showed up, and they started working on Wyatt, and they worked on him, and we had an anesthesiologist who lived down the street, and he finally made his way down, and he got involved, and he was, they were all trying to save Wyatt's life, and it just, Narcan was used 4 or 5 times. There is no Narcan that can help a seizure. It might be effective if the person is just quietly overdosing on an opioid, and Kratom has an opioid effect on the brain.
Yeah.
This is what it emulates. And so they tried everything they could, but as I said, Narcan is not effective on a seizure. And the majority, I want to say the majority of the people that we interviewed for the documentary, they had seizures. So it was very traumatic. I mean, my husband called me. I was in the car on the way home, and he said to me, are you alone? And where are you? And I said, I'm driving. I'm almost home. I'm a block away. And he said, well, it's Wyatt. And the paramedics are at the house, and it doesn't look good. And
worst call a mother can ever get.
I didn't react well. I didn't react the way you would think somebody would react. I haven't even told anybody this, but I was so mad at my husband. I was so angry at him for telling me this. I didn't want to hear it. I did not want to hear it. I got to my house, and I tumbled out of the car, and I was screaming, and my niece came up behind me, and she knew, like, immediately. And I don't know. I just think that I could feel that I was not going to win today. This wasn't going to go well. And by the time I got to our back porch, and I had Gannon and the nurse on the phone, and they said, we did everything we could, but there was no heartbeat, none. And your son is gone. He is gone. And I just, I felt like I didn't know at the time. Everything is a blur, right?
I'm sure
that
your brain did that to help.
Yes,
you.
I remember very little, but I do know that everyone met in Fort Worth the next morning, and My ranch manager and assistant were there already. They got there right away from Colorado. And they started bringing these bottles in the plastic baggies to me and said, okay, look what we found in Wyatt's car. Look what was in the nightstand. This was on the bathroom counter, Patti. And I looked through his medicine cabinet, and there was Prozac, there was Zyrtec, there was the NyQuil that he had. I mean, these are things that people take for years.
Sure.
In combination. And I don't think a Zyrtec is reported killing somebody. I don't believe that NyQuil has killed someone. I mean, I'm saying this, but, I don't think so. I don't think an antihistamine that's prescribed for an itch, which, by the way, if you use Kratom enough, you probably will get itchy, flaky skin because that's a side effect of it. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, you might end up needing an antihistamine. So there you are. Now here you are taking, I'm probably getting ahead of myself, but.
It's okay. We're going to go there anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here you are taking an antihistamine for itch, and you're taking your Prozac. I mean, you've been doing this for years.
Well, you're bringing up something important, and that the documented cases of Kratom associated overdose largely describe a combination of Kratom with some other substance. Although there have been some case reports of Kratom by itself, but they're relatively rare.
Well, I have 3 in the documentary
of
Kratom only,
all by itself.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of public argument about causality in Kratom related deaths. Can you share whether Kratom or its kind of components like mitragynine or 7-hydroxymitragynine were listed anywhere in the death certificate or the sort of officially determined cause of death? Because that actually matters for your advocacy, whether it was there or not.
It was the number 1 ingredient. In Texas, unlike some other states where HIPAA laws are very strong and this information is private, Texas posts it. They allow these private, I think should be private, but they allow it to be public. So the thing that they do, though, and the coroner was very clear with me. She was very clear, because once I embarked on hiring an attorney to have a case to represent Wyatt and what had happened to him, I had many conversations with her, and I wanted to be very clear. And she said, Patti, the way we do it here is we list the order of substance and how the substance shows up. Mitragynine is first. It's the highest level. That is what killed Wyatt. Mitragynine toxicity.
That's very powerful.
That's it. Now, after that, he did have an antihistamine. He had an over-the-counter, something that mimicked like a NyQuil, and it was in his cabinet. So he had NyQuil. He had a Prozac, which she thought he had taken the night before, which makes sense because he takes it at night. So it would have been from the night before. She said that was the lowest component. So I defy any person or organization that wants to shame my son and his toxicology report to come forward with me. They actually posted 10 examples the other day, and I was reading through them. One person was a cigarette and Kratom, and they call that combined toxicity. Another was coffee and toxicity, and that was a toxicity report. Yeah.
It's really important what you're saying because of that order of sort of importance or sort of order in which a substance played a role in one's death. It's very clear, objectively speaking, in Wyatt's case. How did that shape your efforts in the advocacy space and in terms of legislation? I'd love to learn a little bit about your position around what you think should happen in regards to Kratom and 7-OH, because there's a lot of debate around that right now.
Well, I discovered that from 2020 to 2024, the CDC had reported 5,500 deaths relating to Kratom. Okay? And Wyatt sits right in the middle of them. And whereas Florida's proposal at this point right now focuses on 7-hydroxymetragedine, my concern goes much further. I don't believe Floridians or Californians should be a part of a nationwide experiment involving substances that can be purchased at a gas station or a convenience store without the proper vetting that we expect in a substance that can affect the brain and the body. It is not our responsibility to put our gas station attendants and vape store operators in pharmaceutical lab coats. We should not be putting that burden upon them. I have great empathy for people in pain or suffering withdrawals from a drug. My gosh, you're talking about heroin, opium, morphines, and now our gas station attendants are serving up substitutes for these products. For these drugs. There's no way that should be happening. And the second group, going in for pain. Okay, I get it. I understand. Everyone doesn't have great insurance. You know, you're looking for something that's cheap, available, that you might be able to afford to help with pain. But do we go to a gas station to do this? Absolutely not.
So is your thought that it should be completely banned or studied or labeled? There's so many different ways that this could be addressed from a regulatory standpoint.
This is a very good question, because people with anxiety, you go back to, sorry, the innocent. We are talking about the innocent children that are walking into gas stations and buying something next to Skittles. So absolutely, it needs to be researched. Absolutely. You tell me, in what world will the agricultural police be able to go into every vape store and gas station and effectively look at the labeling, make sure they're compliant? The only real honest way that we're going to accomplish this is if all this product is taken off the shelf completely, a pause button is pushed, and the FDA and the DEA, but the FDA especially, is forced to finally pull the trigger on the 3 times that they could have done it before Wyatt died. If they would effectively put their stamp of approval and bless it, then they can put it back on the shelf with all the new ingredients that they are trying to pass state by state. Sometimes right now I feel like a rat on a wheel going from, I go to Florida, and then I go to Michigan, and I'm in Utah, and I'm going to Arizona, and I'm doing all these things. And the attorney generals and the senators and the people that are very passionate about getting this stuff out of their state, they want it off the shelf. They do. And then I have to hear that the federal government is taking money from the two top organizations of Kratom, they're accepting these donations, these massive donations. No, something is wrong with this picture. They have to do their clear-cut job because public safety should come before greed any day. I mean, the public safety is top number one of everyone that I deal with on a state-by-state level. Sitting on both sides of the aisle, this is not a political issue. This is a human issue.
So you're the executive producer of Kratom. Side effects may include. You didn't come from documentary filmmaking. What was it like stepping into that role?
Well, I had been doing it since the boys were 12 years old, going to countries all over the world, filming the boys and coming out to LA and really making it YouTube channel worthy. And at one point, Disney was even going to pick it up. So I had a team of fantastic people. And when this happened to Wyatt, Joanne Rubino, who is the producer of Be Brave Media, she said, Patti, we have to tell this story. And I have the perfect directors to help do that. And it is Jason and Jamie Neese with Umbrella Academy, Horizon. I mean, they became very passionate because they are twins. And they couldn't imagine if something happened to one of them. So we created the documentary. We believe it's going to be available for view come this fall. And we are in different film festivals. We were in Dances with Films, LA.
I saw that.
Coming Saturday. But we were also at Dances with Films in New York. I do hope everyone will search us out and watch the film with open minds and open hearts and understand that this film was not created to promote outrage in any way. It was simply to call attention, ask questions, create better conversations, and really informed consent, save lives. That's what we want. We want to save lives. And I believe if we can accomplish those things with a film, then we're on the right path. And Wyatt would be proud. You know, he's behind this for sure.
What would he say to you today about what you're doing here today, what you're doing right now? What would he add to our conversation if he was here?
He would say, Mom, you're just a mama bear protecting your cub. And you are doing exactly what I would expect of you. It's something that we did. We wanted to educate. We wanted to broaden the horizon for people who we used to call the children's book series something we did for armchair travelers. So he would definitely be proud of what we're doing, and he would be very supportive. And he would say he misses Gannon every day.
Well, I'm really happy to have been part of honoring his memory and hearing your voice here today. I want to thank you so much for your transparency, honesty, and for bringing this very, very personal part of you to the show to educate and spread your and Wyatt's impact on the world.
I feel like this is one of the best interviews I've been on, and I'm so thankful that you had me here. Thank you.
Likewise.